Olatokunbo Fagbemi, who is the spokesperson of Maevis. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
An interesting perspective. It keeps popping up every now and then, and one has just got to ask. I mean, at what point could it be that Maevis had to push the government to the wall for them to say, well, no matter what happens, we have to review this contract? What actually happened?
Essentially, we don't have any problems with the review of the contract, and we've said this several times, because the contract is sacrosanct, but then time changes. However, there's a clause in the contract that talks about how you amend the contract. And then if you also have disputes, there's also a clause about dispute resolution. And all we asked FAAN was, if we want to review this contract, let it be done legally. Give us the notices as is in the agreement, and then we'll follow suit. Because either our first contract was in 2006, and it was supposed to be a joint venture between Maevis and FAAN. And when the minister changed, a lot of petitions were written by some people in FAAN, and they signed it, including people that said they didn't know anything about the agreement. Anyway, the president caused the judicial panel of inquiry to be raised. At the end of that judicial panel of inquiry, the recommendations were that the project is credible, run by credible Nigerians. The executive of Maevis are credible people. There is no fraud, because there was an insinuation that monies are changed before we got the contract, and there was no due process. We just brought the contract. But the evidence showed that about 4 or 5 drafts were reviewed by both FAAN and Maevis. So it wasn't just that. And so we reviewed the contract in line with the Judicial Panel of Inquiry's directive, because that directive led to presidential approval for the project itself. So we have reviewed the contract before.
If there's an inquiry and then they say it should be reviewed, is that part of the procedure or clause which you must fulfill to review the contract?
What happened was that that first contract was completely cancelled, and then a new contract was brought in place, and we reviewed it. And subsequently after that, we started the project with some stops and starts. With a lot of people say a lot of things happened, and so sometimes FAAN will say stop, that costs us money, and then we'll go ahead and we'll continue. But when we started the rollout of the project itself, and it started to run, and income was coming in, because we needed to, the money is split by the banks. And so the banks also do everything based on written instructions from FAAN. So when we got to the point of monies being split from Maevis, there were issues between FAAN and Maevis, and then that was completely resolved. And in a letter by the MD of FAAN to Maevis, it was clearly stated that all issues related...
The current MD of FAAN?
The former MD, okay. Because there have been several MDs, that all issues related to that have been fully resolved. And before you say something is fully resolved, that means that we sat down together to look at it. But for when it came to contract to be reviewed, most of the time we'll be invited to meetings. Like we had a meeting...
sorry, what is the procedure for reviewing of the contract?
You give us a notice in writing or by courier.
But they said they've given notices.
There is no notice that says, in line with this, we hereby invite you for a meeting to review the contract. What
did the notices you got, what did they say?
The few meetings we went for were just, there was a particular meeting we had with the minister, and that one just said collection of funds revenue. And we didn't, there was nothing at all about the review.
Apparently, I mean, what is bringing all of this about? Review or no review, renegotiation or no renegotiation, is the issue of revenue. That is what is at the bottom of this. FAAN believes that the contract that they've signed with you, maybe by previous, was signed with you by previous management, somehow is shortchanging FAAN and is to a greater advantage to you than to FAAN, by extension, the rest of Nigerians, as it were. Do you think that is the case? Is that the case?
No, I don't think that is true, and I don't think we're averse. I mean, I keep sounding like a broken record, saying we're not averse to review. We brought a lot of value to FAAN, and then to backtrack, our contract is not just about revenue collection. We provide the common use terminal equipment, we provide the PIMS, we provide the pricing and billing system, which automated the whole of the collection of monies due to FAAN. Part of our contract also is about bringing about improving systems that will ensure that FAAN's revenue is improved. And we've done a lot of things in that regard. So revenue collection is one part of it. cute is one part, raising the bills is another, improving the revenue with putting in different systems, bringing in new ideas. And we've commissioned a lot of agents, and we've also given FAAN most of those studies. And so there are different parts to the contract itself, and we've tried to run it as much as is possible.
But they say that you haven't run that collecting revenue part as transparently as you should have, because they say that there is a platform which only you have access to. So when they remit money to FAAN, they only get to know what is remitted. They don't know how much you actually rake in, and as such, how much their own cut of the money is.
Can I just ask a question? By they, does that mean the management of FAAN?
Yes.
The management of FAAN has said that they are not aware of how much money is
brought in by Maevis, and how that money actually accrued, and how you arrived at the figure that you give to them.
We don't give the money to them. And just to take you through what we do essentially is that because some of our systems can pick up information automatically, that system is put into the airport operation database, which is also a critical element of the airport operations management system. So when it gets into the airport operations database, because we have that information picked, the pricing and billing system automatically generates the bills. At the same time, the bills are sent to FAAN, because FAAN has given us a list of people with email addresses. For some, we even had to create and have email. When we didn't get email addresses, we created the email addresses, and they have the password, and they're free to share it with anybody. So when the bills are raised, that same bill, and you can check the trace, goes to the banks that collect the money, goes to the banks of the airlines that pay the money, goes to the airlines themselves, and also goes to FAAN. And when you get, if you get any bill, you will see the trace of the people that the emails have gone to. So in terms of the invoices, how much is invoiced, FAAN knows. If they've chosen not to download it or to open it, then it won't be a Maevis problem. But it has been sent to them, and there's proof that it has been sent. On the other side, which is the platform, that platform was opened in line with the agreement, and was opened on the instructions of the managing director of FAAN. Because the agreement says that we should collect and remit. Because we are not a bank, we are not in the business of collection, but that responsibility of collection was given to two banks, Sky and Zenith Bank, by FAAN in writing. So the access to the platform, we have a letter to show that FAAN sent us the names of the people. The passwords were released to them. They're not different passwords. They have the same access. If anybody in FAAN has chosen not to look at it, it won't be because they don't have access.
So the platform shows how much money comes in,
yes,
how much money Maevis is getting,
yes,
and how much money FAAN is
yes,
getting.
on a daily basis,
on a
online,
daily basis,
real time. And receipts are issued by people in finance because they see that on the platform. In addition to that, so that nobody comes to tell us that they couldn't view the platform. Every day, we write what is called a notification letter. And that letter states, this is how much has been paid for this service and by whom. And we send it to FAAN. Just in the event that maybe somebody could not, for any reason, access the internet, because it is information that is on the internet.
So what's the basis for this contract review?
We don't know what FAAN really wants, but we are agreeable. But we are agreeable because we know also that from FAAN's point of view, there's a clause in the agreement, you understand, that talks about 2% and 35% enhancement. That clause was not put in by Maevis. When we were renegotiating the contracts upon the instruction of the President of Nigeria, FAAN said they wouldn't go for a flat fee. They put in the clause of 2 and 35%. And we said, we haven't seen this before. And they said that is their new way of paying fees to their concessionaires. We also know now, facts after the events, that as of 2005, there are concessionaires of FAAN that have similar clauses. Maevis was not working with FAAN at that time. That clause was put in by FAAN. And we have minutes of the meetings that show that. But even if you say the minutes were written by somebody else, there are other agreements that FAAN had signed that have something similar.
How long is this contract supposed to be for?
It's for 10 years, and then and renewal for 5 years. But the key issue is that why
so you've done only 5 or 6 years?
We've only done 5.
There is an issue, though. I mean, they said that the agreement said you spend 3.9 billion naira. That's how much you're supposed to spend on 4 airports: Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and Kaduna. Or Kano. Yes, yeah. 4 airports. And that you say that so far so good. You've been able to deploy your systems in Lagos and Abuja. Some people say it's partially, though. But you also say that you're also moving and you were delayed by FAAN, who was stopping you from deploying your systems in Kano and Port Harcourt. So far so good, you say you've spent 7 billion naira. Yes. But FAAN says you did not get any, permission to be able to spend more than that?
We were stuck, because, for example, we got into Lagos Airport. When we signed the agreement, we didn't know that we would have issues of power. So our equipment could not run on the power that you have in Lagos, especially with the fact that the cost goes up and on. So we've had to expend a lot of money on power, including having our own 500 kVA generator. We've had to expend that in other airports. We also had delays. Those delays cost money. And we have not, even though we have spent 7.5 billion, we have not said to FAAN, we're sitting down, we would write a check a letter. But even within the confines of the agreements, which is this capital cost is 3.97, that's what is in the agreement, and it's to run for 10 years, because we are supposed to build it, operate it, maintain it, and revert to FAAN as good as new. And putting all the patches and all that.
But wasn't it just right that you would have told FAAN that you're already running into these hitches and that the money might be reviewed upwardly?
No, we're not even talking about reviewing the money upwardly. We're just putting it on the table that we have spent 7 billion plus. As at 2 years ago when we had the meeting with FAAN.
And you have documents to show?
Yes, and we have documents to show. But we are not. What we're even saying is that let us run the agreement. Forget the 7 billion, but we put the facts on the table that let us run it for the 10 years and let us recoup money.
Now, why is this important is, because there's also a provision for the termination of the contract at any point in time. Assuming the contract was going to be terminated, as they say they've already done now, you're entitled to some compensation, aren't you? And of course, you'll be entitled based on what your investments are. So the 7 billion or 7.5 billion is an important part of letting FAAN know that if we're spending so much money now, assuming you're going to terminate the contract at any point in time, you'll be expecting a lot more money in compensation.
Because the reality is that if the initial capital cost, as in the contract, is 3.97, and at the end of 10 years, I'm supposed to give you a good and new, with inflation and all that, there's no way to be 3.97, except we're not going to give them as good as new. Because we'll have to keep investing, keep improving, and a valuer will come in and look at it and say, what are we going to give to you? So the initial capital cost is 3.97. We've also added value. We also have issues in terms of if you've delayed us, there's a cost to it because it's borrowed money.
But all those costs were not factored into the 3.9 billion.
As a way, because when we started, that is, you want to build this house, and this is where you're going to run your studio. When you build it and you want to start, you spend 3.97. You're supposed to build, own, operate, and transfer. You have to add value to it. As the project goes on, definitely you would add value to
now,
it.
Because people are worried that this doesn't give put the nation in a bad light when it comes to asking for foreign direct investment in the country. FAAN and Maevis, as well as the Aviation Ministry, are they in any talks?
We're in court. We went to court.
What about ICRC? They tried to intervene.
The ICRC tried to intervene because the court said that status quo be maintained or we go to arbitration. And if all the issues
what is status quo in this case?
Rest be maintained, which is we should operate as that when we went to court. Everybody should maintain the operations as I went to court and the relationship and go to arbitration. And all the issues that FAAN is raising, the arbitration process is a good process to run it. And even as at 2010, when the union came to shut up our office and they were opened, FAAN wrote a letter that because rest be maintained, they've told the union members to stay off. And so if in 2010, FAAN respected and in writing agreed to the court ruling, Why is it that in 2012 or as at 2011, the court ruling that has not changed and was not vacated, suddenly FAAN says they don't believe in it? We believe in the rule of law. We believe that the courts the courts are there to help us. We went to the court for a very simple matter. Please interpret this clause.
But there was also an issue. When we spoke with the lawyer of FAAN, they said that that you had not explored all dispute resolution mechanisms as agreed in your agreement before you went to the court.
When we had the meeting, we were told that in a couple of days, part of our agreement was going to be taken for us. They didn't give us enough time to be able to, because there's a time frame for the notice. We weren't given that time.
So you thought you were being bullied?
We were being bullied because we were just told, the meeting was very simple. We were told, come for revenue collection. And at the meeting, we were told, you know what? FAAN's money is missing 18 billion. We proved that FAAN's money was not missing. The chairperson of the meeting says, because I am confused, I will spend a month to review this. Pending this, please, I'm going to take part of your agreement, and I would also review. We don't have any problem with review. And I would also invite someone to come and audit. I said, we don't have any problems with audit. We only have a problem with the choice of the auditors you want to choose, because the director of finance in FAAN worked in that company before. And even if you go ahead, please put it in writing that we have an objection because this person had worked in this organization, and we made that clear. We looked at it. We borrowed monies from the banks. We spoke with our lawyers. The only option we had at that time, because it was a gun to our head, and the thing was to murder Maevis as an organization and kill Maevis as an organization.
So through those resolution mechanisms in your agreement, you felt that your justice wasn't being served, so you headed to the court?
No, we didn't have the time to be able to do that, and so went to court. But when we went to court, the initial thing that the judge said was, I'll put FAAN on notice and status quo must be maintained. At the next hearing, when FAAN came with their lawyers, FAAN said there's a dispute resolution mechanism in place, and FAAN insisted that they wanted arbitration. Our lawyers argued a bit, but the judge said, since FAAN has said they wanted arbitration, both parties should go to arbitration and status quo be maintained. But we're surprised that the same FAAN that asked for arbitration never went for arbitration.
Has your contract been terminated?
Legally, our contract has not been terminated, because we're given a notice of termination early 2011, and at the next court ruling, the court said the contract cannot be terminated because status quo be maintained, and all issues that relate to termination, or all issues that FAAN has, should go to arbitration. And the ICRC advised FAAN, the Attorney General of Federation also advised FAAN that they should abide by the court ruling and go to arbitration. Okay. If there are issues, they can be solved at arbitration.
Could you respond to this as quick as you can, because we're out of time? Livet says, did the contract warrant you to introduce new charges to passengers, thereby hiking the cost of airfare? Is it connected?
We didn't hike the cost of airfare. If you go to Accra, you pay for queue charge. If you go everywhere, but because FAAN wasn't providing the queue before, you cannot charge for what you don't provide. So we started to provide it, and that's why it's charged all over.
Okay. All right,
so we didn't hike the price.